Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily DeSimone. I'm with the Garden State Film Festival. Today with me, I have writer-director Tom Ryan and star actors Brett Eadman and Jen Plotsky. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. How are you?
How are you?
Doing well, thank you. I really loved the short film, and I'm really excited to ask you guys a couple questions about it. But just to start, can you guys tell our live viewers a little bit about yourselves and a little bit about the film?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'll start. I'm a writer and director, as you mentioned, producer from Bloomfield, New Jersey. Been making independent films now for roughly 10 years. And Haunted is part of is a short story that I wrote and directed with the amazing Brett Eidman and Jen Plotsky, and also Gareth Tidball and Emma Waldron and Rebecca Ray. And it's a real fun film, and it's a short story as part of a larger anthology that we just completed called The Return to the Theater of Terror. And I'm really excited to have the film as part of the Garden State Film Festival.
We're really excited to have you. Um, yes, no. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about this little four-part series that you've got going on? Oh, I think we lost your sound for just a moment
I
there.
muted it. I thought I was done talking. Sorry. Um, yeah, so each Haunted is one of four short stories, and they're all part of a larger anthology. The inspiration for it is really like the classic Twilight Zone, The Outer
Okay.
Limits, Creep Show, Tales from the Crypt. They're all very different themes. We have a time travel story. We have an ancient shaman curse. We have a ghost investigator, a paranormal investigator in Haunted, and then we have kind of a sci-fi short in Robot, which is kind of leaning towards like an 80s feel to it. So they all have very different themes, very different stories, and yeah, it's just kind of heavily inspired by those anthologies that we all used to enjoy on television so much. And yeah, we gear these really towards mainstream audiences. So I feel like you could take your family to see these because, like the Twilight Zone, they're more like kind of like reflections of society and human nature, and that's really where the focus is on, as opposed to really trying to scare people as much. We're really kind of focused on the darkest elements of human nature in these stories that we tell.
So, Jennifer, Brett, can you guys tell me a bit about your experience doing Haunted?
Brett, you want to go first?
If you would like me to, but I'd say ladies first.
Well, you're the through line through the whole thing, so you go ahead.
Oh, okay. So the question was about Haunted, or how I got involved, or
Both.
how did you want me to start this, or tell a little bit about myself, or I don't know what you want.
Let me know, how you got involved, and then tell me a bit about how the process was for you.
Oh, okay. I had Tom Ryan basically said, I have something I'd like you to read, and he sent over a script to Haunted, and I read it, and I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And I'm not a huge fan of horror, but I thought this was really, really cool. And I said, yeah, I would love to do this. And Tom was like, okay. And so next thing I know, we're doing a read through, and and then trying to get ready to do this. I was struggling a little bit for a lot of other circumstances, and Tom said, I wrote this for you, so the character is you, so don't worry about the character as much because it's you. So then he went into all details about what the character is. He's a slime bag. He's this. He's he's a sleazy character. So just he's you. So then we just started to work on it, and it was just a great thing to do, and it was an amazing experience. It was an incredible role, and I love this film, and I love the other films that are in the anthology. They're all just great in their own way. They're different, but they're similar.
Thank you, Brett. Jen, can you tell me a bit about how you got to work with Tom and how this process was for you?
Yeah. So I had never met Tom. I had never yeah, we'd never worked together. And he reached out, God, I think it was like February of 2020 when he was starting to cast all of these. Or, well, he had already, I think already some of them were done, excuse me, but he was casting Haunted anyway. And so he reached out to me and asked if I would audition. And I was like, sure, let me, send me the stuff. But again, I didn't know who he was. And so I started stalking him a little bit online to see, who he was and what he was all about. And I noticed that we had friends, mutual friends, and they had already worked on this or other things with Tom. And so I was like, hey, who's this Tom Ryan guy? Is this guy good or what? And they were like, work with this guy, do whatever it is, just do it. And I was like, okay. So I hadn't even read the script, but I did the audition and I booked the role. And then I read the script and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And it was my first horror, which I was so excited about. I'd always wanted to work in horror and I just hadn't had the opportunity. And then, we had the most amazing time on set. I was so glad that I got to be a part of it because it was everything. It exceeded my expectations in every sense. And then when we got to see the other films that he had already done, I was like, it blew my mind because honestly, watching this anthology, it's amazing to think that, this all they're all so wonderfully different and so wonderfully inventive that I really, it's so great. They're all just, it's a beautiful anthology. And so I'm really excited for people to see it.
So are we. Tell me, when did you end up filming? Because you're saying you were reaching out doing auditions right prior to the pandemic. Were you filming during the pandemic?
Well, I'll let Tom answer that, I guess, but I know that he was working on kind of multiple films at once.
Okay.
Yeah, pre-production started in late 2019 when we really started reaching out to people to cast. We began filming in March of 2020, and we finished the first short story, Soothsayer, 1 week before the lockdowns. And I remember us joking on set on Soothsayer about the coronavirus. Have you heard about the coronavirus? And we're just kind of joking about it. And then a week later, right, everything gets shut down. And it was only supposed to be 2 weeks. So I just started editing Soothsayer, like, okay, we're going to get back into the swing of things real soon. And then obviously we all know what happened after that. But yeah, we continued shooting throughout the pandemic. Most of the actors that we worked with couldn't work because SAG was shut down and they weren't, no one was on set. And so there were a lot of really talented actors that I got to work with that were like dying to do something. I think we were all dying to do anything, like even just go for a walk, right? So everybody was just dying to get out. And we had great communication between cast and crew, and everybody wanted to get it done. And we were all healthy and we felt good. And we made sure that everybody felt good and healthy before, we actually arrived on set. But, knock on wood, we got through the entire 4-film anthology without any incident, without anyone getting sick, without, so everybody was really responsible in that respect. But yeah, we shot throughout 2020, March 2022. We just wrapped the last film. Gosh, it may be October of 22 or September or something. I can't remember exactly when, but yeah, November actually it was November of 22.
How would you say COVID affected filming for you? Did it change anything drastically?
Not really. Not
Okay.
really. Like I said, it was just as far as making locations accessible was probably the hardest part for us. Like finding places where we can shoot. But luckily there was no like shopping malls or anything like that in the film where like you would clearly see. One thing I didn't want to do in any of these films was reflect COVID.
Yes.
I didn't want masks in the films. I didn't want any of that. And a lot of stories really did a good job of that on network television, like building that into just this is real life and this is what's happening at the same time as we're trying to tell a narrative here. But with me, I really like our stuff to kind of be timeless. In some respect, of course, in 10 years, people will look at it and say, oh, look at those dumb cell phones they were using, or look at whatever. And I get that. But just in regards to, I don't like to associate the films with any specific time period. And so I certainly didn't want to reflect COVID happening at the time that we were making our films. It wasn't part of the story. It wouldn't have fit into the story. It would have been such a distraction, people would be like, this is scary, but COVID is scarier, right? So we didn't really build that in, but yeah, it didn't hinder us as much as it hindered big, union network televisions where they have a lot more uh, to be responsible for than we do. We're indie. Everybody's kind of responsible for getting on board and doing what we're doing, but we don't have any union representation or anything really. I mean, we did do it through SAG, but the timing just worked. The timing worked, so it wasn't a hindrance as much as it was on some other projects.
So, what do you want your viewers and your audience to get out of watching, your film and your 4-part series?
Just entertainment. I want people to enjoy the stories that we tell. I want them to bear witness to the amazing independent talents that you see. I pride our production team on working with really talented people and just getting them in the spotlight. There's so many really talented people that we know and that I've seen in other films and that I meet at places like the Garden State Film Festival where I'm just blown away. And when people think independent films, they tend to think low budget, bad acting and such. And so, I mean, I even see that on cable television sometimes when I put on independent film. I'm like, how did this even get on here? It's so poorly made. And no offense to anybody, but it's unfortunate that you kind of get that reputation. And I think one of our goals is to show people that you can make independent films that are really well thought out, really well written, and have amazing talents in front of the camera. And I think that's something that I want people to see is that. And it's so funny as an independent filmmaker, one of the funniest things I ever hear is, wow, your movie looks like a real movie. it's just one of the funniest things that you hear because it's just such like a thank you. But I just want people to really, I'm not trying to shock anyone. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to entertain people and do it with the best individuals that I can find.
Do you have any advice for filmmakers?
It's funny. I always get the advice question. I always think I'm no one to give anybody advice about anything really. But there's a process. Filmmaking is not just as easy as writing a story and picking some actors and getting your camera. And there's a lot more involved. For me, relationships is important. I like establishing relationships with my actors and my cast and crew. Friendships are important to me. If you're happy on set, you make a better product. Being on the same page, doing read-throughs, pre-production is very important. The right locations. I just think team building is so important when you're making a film. There's a ton of talented people that you could just hire that will do great jobs for you. But for me, relationships are so important. And I think that's something that Jen probably got a whiff of when she kind of started snooping and asking people, who's this guy? Because most of those people that she talked to, I'm sure I've established really good relationships with. And to me, it's important because when you do that, it is reflected in your film and in your work. Then people just want to work with you again. And I think that's also a goal of mine is I love working with great people and I want us to all want to work together again. And because making movies is supposed to be fun, right?
Absolutely.
I think when you watch, when everyone gets a chance to watch this whole anthology together and you watch all of the credits roll, it literally is an army of people that made these 4 films, all under the direction of Tom. Excuse me. But the greatest thing is that when you're on one of these sets, on one of Tom's sets, is that indie spirit, is that like-minded sort of, we all have a common goal and everyone's sort of working together and there's no, that's his job or that's his job. Like everyone, it's just this very cohesive unit and everyone is in it for the creative aspect of it and this creative approach to making horror films. And it's wonderful to watch and experience. And just to be on the set. I mean, what a gift to be an actor on the set, but also just to be a fly on that wall with, it's incredible. And so I think that people will really take that away and realize like what went into making this and the fact that it's a testament to Tom and Theater of Terror that all of these people come together and it's birds of a feather. And so it's cool to see.
Yeah, I do. I believe that, everything in acting and theater and movies and art, it's a big puzzle. And no matter what puzzle piece you are just one piece of the puzzle. It's just something that comes together. You can't do it without anybody. Well, thank you guys so much, Brett, Jennifer, Tom, for joining with me today. You guys can watch Haunted on Saturday, the 25th at the Cranford Theater. The block is 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. All right, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
Emily, thank
Bye.
you.